Hey, welcome back to Karen's Papercraft. Thank you very much for watching. Wat leuk dat je weer kijkt, dankjewel. Today's card is a Get Well card and I've used the Cheerful Basket stamp set and the Full Basket dies to make it. This is it. It's a slightly longer video than normally because in the video I'm showing you a masking technique, I'm showing you heat embossing, and I'm showing you a cool Stamparatus trick to stamp on a really narrow strip of cardstock and get it right in one go. I'll start by showing you all the supplies that I've used. The inks are Sweet Sorbet, Soft Suede, Early Espresso and Versamark. I have used the Full Basket dies and the Cheerful Basket stamp set. I'm going to use my Stamparatus. I'm going to use the, there's none left, I'm going to use the masking paper. And I'm going to use the adhesive sheets as well. There's usually a piece in my tray which still can be used. I've used several stamping blends and you can see all the items that I've used, all the colours are on my blog, and of course some cardstock and some things that I have prepared. I'm going to start with the sentiment strip and to show you a Stamparatus trick to stamp this in one go and get it right in one go, and I'll show you my technique for that. So I promised you the Stamparatus. You need a magnet to secure your strip and you need a piece of plastic, and I'm going to put something underneath. Oh well, I'll put my stamp case underneath, and of course I want the sentiment sending you get well cheer. First of all, I'm going to position my stamp on the plastic sheet. It's disappeared. There it is. So I'm just putting this in the corner, and then where I can stamp comfortably, I'm putting down my sentiment, pick it up, and first of all I'm going to stamp on the plastic sheet, and I'm using Soft Suede because I wanted a soft colour. So I'm stamping onto this sheet of plastic, and I have here just a 1/4 inch strip which is 7mm, and I'm sliding it under, and I want some space to the right and to the left because I want to be able to position it on my card. And when I'm happy with where it is, I secure my strip, lift the plastic sheet, ink up the stamp again and stamp. And you see, beautifully stamped in the middle in one go. Now I mustn't lose this, knowing me. So I'm cleaning my stamp and my sheet because I don't need it anymore. And if you want to make multiple cards, of course, you can repeat this process again and again. Meanwhile, I've set up things again, and I'm going to use the same method to stamp this. Yeah, it's a wooden trog, I would say, for the apples. Now I'm stamping an Early Espresso, so I'm stamping onto the plastic sheet, and I can slide my piece of cardstock under because I want it to go exactly at the bottom of the paper. That's fine. You can hold the paper, secure it with a magnet, 2 magnets now, because I don't want this to move, because I'm going to use Versamark and the Early Espresso, because I'm going to heat emboss all my images. So you can see me do that later. It's the same process. So you ink up your stamp, and then you clean your stamp, and then you go over with Versamark, and then you put stamping emboss powder on top. So I'm inking up my stamp again to get a nice deep colour. Stamping it, And a photopolymer stamp tends to cling to the paper so that the paper might move. So that's why I've used 2 magnets here to secure it. If you have to stamp only once, there wouldn't even be any need to secure your paper, but now I want it to stay in the same place. Now I'm inking up my stamp in Versamark, and then I'm going to put stamping emboss powder on top. Now you know why I don't normally have the sound on when I'm heat embossing. Quite a lot of noise. Now then, this can dry for a minute, and I'm going to make a mask first, and I just realised I could have left my stamp on my Stamparatus, but I had already taken it off, so I'm going to put it on the block now. This is a D block, and first I'm going to stamp on some masking paper, and I'm going to cut that and put that as a mask on top of the trug. And I prefer to stamp in a contrasting colour, so here I'm having, oh wow, starry sky. Contrasting colour is so that I can see very well where my stamp is and where the mask is. That's the only reason, really. So I'm going to cut this and put it on as a mask. Sometimes getting the backing paper off is just a bit fiddly. Now then, I'm putting my mask on top of the stamped image, and I'm going to stamp the hearts and the apples, and I'm stamping those in Early Espresso as well and Versamark. And here I'm showing you another method of doing it. If you're quick with your stamp and emboss powder, the ink hasn't dried yet, and you don't have to stamp twice, if you understand what I mean. I'll show you. So I'm having the hearts first of all, and I'm not going to stamp those hearts in Early Espresso, sorry about that. I'm going to stamp in Sweet Sorbet because the hearts are red. So I have here my Versamark and my Sweet Sorbet and the hearts, and then I'm going to put them on an ordinary block. This is the H block. And then first I'm inking my stamp with the Versamark, and it's no problem if you get a bit of Versamark in your ink pad. The other way around is a problem because then you'll be colouring your Versamark pad. So here I'm, before I do this, I'm putting my emboss powder near so as not to lose time. So inking up my stamp, then I'm putting on the red colour and I'm stamping over the mask. And first I'm going to put the embossed powder on this edge, and then repeat the other end. And now I'm cleaning my stamp because there's red on my stamp and I don't want the red in my Versamark pad. So repeat the process. Now I'm not taking away my mask yet. I'm going to stamp the apples first after I've cleaned my hearts. And the apples I'm going to stamp in Early Espresso because I want the darker colour there. I can use the same block. And it's the same process. So first I'm putting on the Versamark and then the coloured ink, and then I'm putting the Stampin' Emboss powder on top, and that again I'm going to, right way up, and that again I'm going to heat emboss. This is the clear powder, by the way. I think I haven't said so far. So my apples, and now I'm making sure that I stamp on top of my mask because I want the apples to peek out of the trug. There you see. Put the embossed powder on. Now, you have to be careful that you don't touch where you have already put the embossing powder on, because then you'll smear your image, and when there's no powder it won't heat emboss. Now I can very carefully, from an end where there is no stamping, remove the mask. You can only use this mask once. Normally you can use a mask several times, but because there's embossed powder on, you can't use it anymore. It'd be too messy. You see, here I have my image, and I'm going to heat emboss that as well. Right, that's my image. And I'm going to use my blends now to colour everything, and I'll show you with the trug, but the process is really the same. I'm going to use darker and lighter colours, and my trug is in crumb cake. Yep, I always start with a light colour. Some people start with a dark, whichever you prefer. Oh, and the handle, let me colour that first. That is Cajun Craze Light. That's just this bit of handle. Heat embossing it and then colouring it with your blends I find much easier, because, well, you don't have to pay so much attention to the lines. There's no danger of going over the lines as much, because you tend to stay within the embossed lines much more easily. And I normally don't do the entire image, I do it in pieces. So I've just coloured this top band. Now I'm going to darken some areas. And I'm going to go over the dark again and then blend it in with the light. So you get some shading. And that is how I continue doing everything. The hearts as well. The hearts are going to be coloured with sweet sorbet. I'll show you just one heart. I start with the light. And then I use the dark one to emphasize the edges a little. And go over it again and blend in the light colour. And the same thing with the apples. The apples are Parakeet Party. I'll do one apple and then I'll finish doing it off camera. So I start with the lightest. There's a light one because there's very little difference in the colours. You see, yesterday I found myself mixing them up. So this is the light one. So one little apple, Parakeet Party light. And then the darker colour, where I think there may be some shadow, and then you blend it in. So you go over the dark again and you blend in the light colours. And the same thing for the leaves. There I've used Old Olive, and I start with the dark and I just take where the leaf is next to the stem. I put the dark Old Olive and then the light next to it, and that is how I colour the entire image. So I'll go and do that. When I've finished I'll show you and I'll be back. This then is all coloured. I've done the butterfly off camera as well, stamped it, heat embossed it and coloured it with Tahitian Tide, dark and light, and I've die cut another one. There's this tiny butterfly die cut, and I'm going to adhere these one on top of the other to give it just a bit more sturdiness and dimension. And then I'm going to put it on my card later on with some mini dimensionals. So I'm sticking this together, and you can press from the edges and feel where the edges align. And this then can dry for a minute. I'm putting it over here. I'm going to show you how I made the little apples. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, my original card, I did the stamping of the trug in soft suede, and here I used early espresso. You can see the difference. There is a slight difference. I have to confess I like the soft suede more than the early espresso, but that is a matter of taste, I suppose. Well, okay. So, 2 little apples. These are dies, and you get 2 apples and 2 tiny, tiny, tiny stalks with a leaf. And I die cut them in basic white, and I've put some adhesive sheet on the back, and I hope this is going to be large enough to take them all. And I put the adhesive sheet on the back because there is no way I'm going to try and adhere these with Tombow or any other glue, just too fiddly. So I'm securing these temporarily and die cutting them. So this is the basic white side, and so you have at the bottom the adhesive sheet. And I'm going to colour these as well. You may need your take a pick tool to get the dies clear of the paper, and there's another leaf there. We've got these very convenient holes in the back for that. So I've got 2 apples, and I have 2, oh, let me first get these on the magnetic sheet, because these would be easy to lose, wouldn't they? I'm going to colour these as well with blends. And I have here the dark crumb cake for a stalk. So you colour the stalk only. I hope you can see. I can't zoom in really very much because then my camera refuses to focus. So I've coloured just the stalk, and I'm going to do the leaves in the same way I did the leaves on the image. So I'm starting with the dark Old Olive and put some where the stalk is. And here too, it's so tiny, just holding it with my nail really. And there you go. And then Old Olive, the light variant, and you colour the leaf, the rest of it. And I'm going to do the same thing to the apples with Parakeet Party. I could have taken some coloured cardstock, I know, but I just think that you can get more depth with the basic white and the blends. And for this card I wanted that. I didn't want the colours to look too monochromatic. So again, where I imagine the shading might be, and then you go over it again and you blend it in with the rest. And some here towards the bottom. And you see when it has dried, it has a really nice look to it. So you go over the dark and then blend it out towards the rest. I think I have all the elements now. So I'm ready to put my card together. And I'll do that first, and then I will tell you the dimensions of the cardstock and the designer series paper that I've used. I put some seal in the middle on purpose, and then some Tombow towards the edges, so that I can really position it to my liking. It has to be a bit lower, There we go, and a bit towards the right. I like it off centre. And then when I'm happy, it'll move around on the glue. When you press down in the middle, it is fixed right away. Now then, here I want my strip to be about 1/4 from the top, a bit lower, yeah. So I've put it on my grid paper on this fat grid line, and I'm drawing a pencil line, a faint pencil line, and I'm using that as a guide, and I'm putting little droplets of Tombow on. There's no need to have a continuous line because Tombow spreads and your strip is just 1/4 inch wide, so if you put too much glue on, it'll ooze out from under and mess up your card. So I'm putting it on my grid paper again, and I want my sentiment to go, and I'm using this line on the grid paper now to adhere my text, and I want it to go to a bit towards the right, so on top of the grid line, and then give it some time to dry. Meanwhile I can stick my butterfly on. Dimensionals, I said, mini dimensionals, and I'm using 1/2 as well because it's a tiny butterfly. So I've got one here and then a 1/2, and I think I can put another 1/2 on there. Yes, it'll fit nicely. Okay, so getting rid of the backing paper. I love working with these tiny bits, even though the whole process is fiddly, but okay. So I want my butterfly to go there. And now then, the finishing touch, my little apples. And I suppose my Tombow has dried by now. I'm just trying to get my leaves over. Oh, there's a bit of green, which I didn't colour. So I want the light again. Yes, that's better. Now first I'm going to cut my strip down to size. This has dried now. You see it best from the back. A snip. Oh, sorry about that. I may not have been in focus anymore. And another snip. I'll just push those bits over there. You can't see them anymore. Right, and now my apples. It's very easy now. With your Take Your Pick tool, you remove the backing. And remember, it was adhesive sheet, so it's all tacky now on the back. I first put on my apples and then add the stalks with the leaves. One a bit higher. Here they're more delicate, so I'm trying to be really careful. Alright, and I'm using tweezers for that. I find it much easier than just using your fingers. Now the cardstock, you may have guessed already, is of course Parakeet Party, and it was a 11" by 4 1/8 piece. If you work in US letter, you can leave it at 4 1/4. Putting another stalk on, and there we go. My mat is Designer Series paper, and it is called Celebrate Everything. This is 5 1/4 by 2 1/2, and my basic white mat is 4 inches by 2 1/2. Well, that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. Dank u wel voor het kijken. If you'd like to see more of my project, there are some suggestions there. And of course, if you subscribe to my channel and click the bell icon, you'll be the first one to know when I have a new video out. See you next time. Bye!